Gopijana Ballabha Giridhari Giridhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Ballabha Giridhari Labha Giridhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Rama Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, Text 37. Sarira Manasa Divya Vayasheye Chamanasaha Bhotikascha Katam Klesha Bharante Hari Samsrayam Sarira Manasa Divya Vayasheye Chamanasaha Bhotikascha Katam Klesha Bharante Hari Samsrayam Sarira Manasa Divya Vayaset ye chamanusaha. Bhotikascha katam klesha. Bharante hari samsrayam. Someone else? Vaishnavi? Word for word. Sarira, pertaining to the body. Manasaha, pertaining to the mind. Divya, pertaining to supernatural powers, the demigods. Vayase, Ovidura, Ye, those. Cha, and. Manusa, pertaining to other men. Bhotika, pertaining to other living beings. Cha, and. Katam, how. Klesha, miseries. Bharante, can trouble. Hari samsrayam, one who has taken shelter of Lord Krishna. Translation. Therefore, O Vidura, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures? Purport. Every living entity within this material world is always afflicted by some kind of miseries pertaining either to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances. Distresses due to cold in winter and severe heat in summer always afflict miseries on the living entities in this material world. But one who has completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in Krishna consciousness is in the transcendental stage. He is not disturbed by any miseries, either due to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances of summer and winter. He is transcendental to all these miseries. Sarida manasa divya vayashe ye chamanasaha bhotikascha katam klesha bharante hari samsrayam. Therefore, O Vidura, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures? So we've been reading about Swayambhuva Manu, what exceptional devotee he is. And he a very high level, practically Mahabhagavat platform of devotional service, and how he completely just always engaged in hearing, worshipping the deity, doing kirtan, hearing Krishna Katha, arranging for these things to go on. And so he was also a very, very busy person. Empress Swayambhuva Manu and a household life. So it's not easy to be able to juggle all these things simultaneously. And on our level, we know just in our small life, and we have to do so many activities in the world and simultaneously be Krishna conscious. Those who are married with families, children, working, and simultaneously be Krishna conscious. But we see now, Swami Vimanu, we've been reading, he lives a very long life, 71 cycles of the yugas, 71 cycles of the yugas. So long life, but the whole life practically was spent on the topmost levels of Krishna consciousness, and so he completely taken shelter of the Supreme Lord. So here it is mentioned that naturally in the material world there are different miseries. This was previously mentioned in verses going back, and Prabhupada had commented that miseries, adi daivik, adi bautik, adi atmik, klesha. Klesha means the different miseries. So everyone all over the universe, and some places more than others. Of course, in the heavenly planets, they don't feel these miseries as much as those on Earth. And even on Earth, there are different Vashas, and then we're living in this area, Bharat Vash. So it is said the Bharat Vash, and especially in the Kali Yuga, these types of kleshas, or sufferings, are very pronounced. And so every one of us feels it. And Prabhupada actually mentioned that it's not that when one comes to Krishna consciousness, these things just automatically go away. While one has a material body living in the world, there will always be these types of afflictions, and there's no escaping them. It's just concomitant factor of the material universe. So it may be that now, of course, in the Kali Yuga, it's very much accentuated and accelerated because of a lot of sinful activities that people have to get reactions, the karma. For sinful activity, very heavy type of reactions, normally, especially in the other ages, people would live very pious lives. And so, there would be adi bautik and adi atmik and adi daivik there, but very much reduced. But in Kali Yuga, it's very much, as I said, accelerated, and it's going to become more and more and more. So we have a lot of this klesha, and when one comes to Krishna consciousness, and especially in this age, it's not that these things that we're seeing, it's accelerating all the time, more and more and more in the material world. And Prabhupada actually mentioned in the previous report, he says here, it is not that the miseries of the material world completely vanish when one takes to Krishna consciousness, but for one who is in Krishna consciousness, the miseries of material existence have no effect. We cannot stop the miseries of the material atmosphere, but Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic method to protect us from being affected by the miseries of material existence. Very wonderfully explained there by Sir. The antiseptic, just like if when something you get a little cut or something like that, you put the antiseptic on there, and it reduces the infection or whatever. So Krishna consciousness is like that you won't be so much affected. Now, your body may become disturbed and afflicted. You cut yourself, you get sick, natural disturbances, all these things, troubles from others will always be there. In Kali Yuga, it is said that wherever there are two people, there will be quarrel and argument going on. And so just two people, and then even by yourself, your mind's working. And I remember we had one bhakta on the bus, and we were all doing our activities, and this bhakta was just reading upstairs. This one we had the double-decker, but he was reading upstairs in the temple room area. But many hours later we came back, and I saw he was on the same page practically. And he said, I'm so disturbed in my mind that I can't even focus on reading. Even the page is open, but my mind is just going 100 miles an hour. And so disturbed. So even with your own self and your own mind, there's disturbances that afflict us. And indeed, this type of mental disturbance is increasing more and more in the Kali Yuga. But the purpose of Krishna consciousness is to absorb one's mind and intelligence and whole being in the process of Krishna consciousness. And that then on the level of your consciousness, even though these things are going on, it's not a question of these things going away. Sometimes devotees think like that, especially beginning devotees. They think like that. Well, now I've come to Krishna consciousness, all the suffering should be gone to practically nil. I shouldn't be suffering. I don't get these types of suffering that everybody else experiences. But that's so many times devotees have approached me. I always tell the story of the lady that organised the program in Jakarta when I was there at her husband's factory. He was a big executive, and we went and did a nice program, Kirtan Prasadam, and she was very happy. Everyone was happy. But then later she came to the temple and complaining to me how she can't understand why Lord Krishna would do this. She arranged everything at her husband's work, and she had a really good job, but now somehow or other she lost her job. She was dismissed from her job. So why did Lord Krishna do that when she had done all these things to organize all these events? So, I tried to explain philosophically to her, but she was so agitated she really couldn't hear much. But later on, a week later, she came back and said, "Oh, Swami, now I'm very happy. I've got a better job now." So we don't have much patience or faith in Krishna consciousness, especially in the beginning levels. We very easily give it up. We very easily give it up, and I tell the story I've told a few times before of the new bhakta who came storming into my office in Melbourne when I was president down there, and the Melbourne Temple, and he said, "That's it, I'm leaving the Krishna consciousness. I've had enough." And I said, "Well, what seems to be the problem?" He said, "Every morning, I sit there for breakfast prasadam, and I ask for extra chapatis. But this particular devotee who serves every morning, he never gives it to me. And, even I've spoken to him, he just ignores me. He's really treating me badly. He's singled me out. And so that's it." I said, "Don't worry, Prabhu. We'll organize everything for you. I'll speak to that devotee." And actually, I went to that devotee. I said, "It's not very good that you're having some sort of bias. Better you don't serve. Better you don't serve. One has to serve in a very humble way, without a bias, just seeing at a service and not distinguishing between who received what and just giving out the prasadam." So I said, better take a break from giving out the prasadam. And then we arranged extra japatis and pakuras that this devotee wanted. And so we sat him down actually in the office and brought in some prasadam, and he was very happy. And then from that time on, he remained a devotee, still a devotee to this very day. But in the beginning, he was just about to run off out of the temple in a huff, just because that devotee didn't give him the extra japatis and pakuras that he had been asking for the last few days. So our kind of faith and our tolerance levels, it's not very developed in the beginning. This, of course, comes from our material life, whatever modes of nature we've been affected by, and goes over many lives as well. So we don't, some more than others have more tolerance, have more faith in things, but others are different. So it's all mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and some more mode of goodness, a mix of all these things. So one comes to Krishna consciousness, takes up the process, but is still affected by these things. And so it can be seen that after a short time, maybe they give up the process. But if one sticks to the process, and if one is able to, of course, to come to the level, there's a very, very high level, Swayambhuva Manu, we see that practically all the time. He was just, his whole life was molded. And he was naturally enthused. I think Prabhupada, I was reading, in the previous, one of the previous purports, that for Swayambhuva Manu, as he got older, he became more enthused in his life because of his practice of Krishna consciousness. He felt more enthusiastic at living his life, whereas Prabhupada says generally the materialistic person, especially at the fag end, he uses this term, at the fag end of life, things become tasteless and repetitive, and you're doing the same thing over and over again. Young people are all coming up, they're growing up, and everything seems new and fresh, and they're going off and doing so many things as well. But after many, many years, you just find yourself doing the same thing, and it becomes a bit stale, tasteless. It becomes old and tasteless. You're just doing the same thing every day. There's some people in the world, of course, they just go up and go to the shop and buy a loaf of bread and come home. That's pretty much do the same thing. Get some milk, buy some bread, come home again. And it's very repetitive and it's very boring. And there's many people like that. So of course, people think you have to have a lot of variety, and that that's the spice of life. To have the variety, okay, doing one thing you're going to get bored, but having the variety. But after a while, after many years, you start getting, the variety, you start to work out that the variety seems to be much of the same as well. The variety of the same thing. How much variety can you have? And many of us have traveled to different countries of the world, and more or less after a while, from myself, I speak for myself, after many, many decades of traveling one country, more or less one country is the same. There's different patterns and molds of countries. There's kind of India, Asia type countries and the Western countries, but pretty much after you experience the different varieties, they're pretty much all the same. They fit in that level. So, just traveling around to one place to another, just for the sake of traveling, is not so exciting for the devotee. Because a devotee is excited traveling to go and spread Krishna consciousness. That's another thing. And I think I've told this story before. We were, again, on my old bus days, we were travelling down in Victoria on the coast, coming into Melbourne from that side. We travelled New South Wales, coming in around the coast that way. And we picked up a couple of hitchhikers, a boyfriend and girlfriend. I think they were from Sweden or someplace like that. And we picked them up. They were hitchhiking. And he said, yes, we're heading to Melbourne. Where are you going? Oh, we're heading to the 90-mile beach. We want to see, we've heard about the 90-mile beach, and we're really excited to get to the 90-mile beach. So after a while, a couple of hours, and we pulled the bus over. We said the 90-mile beach is coming up, so we pulled over, said, okay, it's a 90, and they go, well, whereabouts is that? Where do we go to the 90-mile beach? I said, well, see, there's a sign there, and it points you to the sand, and you turn right and you walk 90 miles, that's the 90-mile beach. Big deal. I've been on the 90-mile beach. I knew exactly where they were going. So, beaches and that, when you've been on beaches on the bus program, we used to stop and camp out on the beaches, so we knew about beaches, and pretty much knew all beaches everywhere. So the 90-mile beach wasn't very enthralling for us. So we just told them, yes, 90 mile, turn right, walk 90 miles, that's the 90-mile beach. And so, they actually got the joke. They got the joke. Anyway, we waved them goodbye, gave them some prasadam, and they were kind of happy. So at least they got some Krishna consciousness, and very nice people. But all these things, all these different varieties of things, after a while, after you've been doing them a long time, they become, as Prabhupada said, especially at the fag end of your life, everything becomes tasteless, becomes same thing over and over. Same, what do they say? Same old, same old, same old, same old. However, as Emperor Swami Manu grew older, his life remained fresh because he continued increase not only in his Krishna consciousness, but continuing to increase his Krishna consciousness more and more. He became more absorbed. He felt more love in his Krishna consciousness. So that very much enthused him and invigorated him. So as devotees, we have to be mindful to absorb ourselves more and more. And we read about great personalities like Swami Manu, who was so exemplary. Of course, it is said that you can't imitate such great personalities like Swami Manu, but follow in the footsteps. The difference is just trying to do everything exactly no, you're not on that level, but follow. See how how they did things, and then according to your level, try to do it according to your capacity. Don't try to do their capacity. Their capacity is different, and don't make that mistake trying to. And in fact, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanat Goswami cautions the devotees that don't try to imitate great devotees, and especially the great acharyas and the guru. This is actually considered offensive, to completely imitate them. Don't try to imitate the gait of the guru. Don't try to walk like the guru. Don't try to talk like the guru. Don't try to just imitate completely. I think I mentioned before, I remember there was one godbrother of ours that tried to completely imitate Prabhupada, even though he was a young man. And Prabhupada, of course, he was elderly and he walked with a cane. So this young man, disciple of Prabhupada, he started to walk with a cane. So even though he was a young man, he didn't need a cane, but he thought, walk with a cane. And Prabhupada's first language wasn't English, and so he used to speak with a little bit of an accent, a little bit clipped English. So he started to speak like that, even though his first language was English. So you can't imitate like that. And Sanat Goswami says, no, this is offensive. It's almost can be like a mocking, and not only that, it's artificial. But don't try to do their capacity, but one has to be very respectful of those and follow in the footsteps, just according to your capacity, see how they did it, and then you according to your capacity. So, therefore, when while living in the world, the trick is how to handle the things of the world. It's not that we just fight against them. These things are, as I said, concomitant factors. You can't escape trouble from other people. You can't escape trouble from nature. You can't escape trouble in so many different ways. Now, how you handle them, that's the secret of advancing in Krishna consciousness. And of course, we see how Swayambhuva Manu handled, and we see how so many other great devotees handle all these things, adversities while living in the material world, how they remain fixed, even in the greatest disturbances. We see so many wonderful devotees. Bhishma Dev was, Arjuna fired so many arrows, he was covered in arrows, lying on a bed of arrows, yet his Krishna consciousness was very clear. Lord Krishna took Yudhisthira Maharaj to receive instructions for Bhishma Dev. You can imagine. You can imagine that the pain that his body must have felt with all those arrows in him. He was lying on the bed of arrows. Yet he was able to speak very perfectly. Our own Srila Prabhupada in his last days was lying incapacitated practically. Yet his Krishna consciousness, he was dictating Srimad Bhagavatam, giving his commentary. And we see even current many wonderful devotees currently, our own godbrother Jayapataka Maharaj, who was confined to a wheelchair on dialysis, and yet unable to do so many things physically, but Krishna consciousness very, very sharp. Our own Krishna Kirtan, wonderful, dialysis every day, very, very Krishna conscious. Just ask him a question about Krishna consciousness and he gives you the just right on Krishna conscious answer. So we see how devotees who have dedicated their lives to Krishna consciousness, even in the face, and this is the real test. I mean, you when everything's going good, but when something goes wrong, I'm running away from the Krishna consciousness. One gives you a look. That devotee looked at me bad. That's it. I'm leaving. So the slightest thing, and actually the mind may be looking for excuses. Because in the beginning it's new, it's fresh, and the mind's always looking for something new and fresh, and so we gravitate, this Krishna, a new thing, let me try. But then after a while, I'm like, okay, let's move on to something else now. And so, no, the intelligence is saying, no, you should stay in this Krishna consciousness. It's the ultimate goal of life. You hear and you read so many instructions in this regard, but the mind is always pulling, so there's a bit of a tug of war there, intelligence and mind. So this can very much affect us. So we have to stay strong in our Krishna consciousness and always be absorbed and seeking shelter of those who are. Now we see that Swambhuva Manu, he was always absorbed in in these pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the previous purport, Prabhupada mentioned liberation is not a very great achievement for a devotee, especially the impersonal Brahman. This type of thing is not at all attractive. Swambhuva Manu was thinking of the personality, hearing about the personality, the different, the Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, the many different pastimes he was hearing. He was absorbed in hearing about the personality of God. He wasn't interested in Brahman. Sometimes we get, I was just reading it the other week about some presentation of the yoga, and it was more the impersonal style. So they use these types of phrases that kind of, mind-bender type of phrases that, kind of people, some people are very attracted to. Like I read one, it was like, he who knows does not speak. And he who speaks does not know. So, this must be something pretty far out. He who knows does not speak, and he who speaks does not know. I mean, someone had to speak and say that. So, I don't know. It's one of these mind-bender type of statements. And then another one in that presentation was, hear the sounds of the soundless. Walk through the gate of no gate. So this type of thing, some people are very expert at putting all these things together. And of course, in the impersonal part, there are many types of statements like that. So they're attractive to people who don't have a foundation in understanding about the personality of Krishna and Rama and so many different incarnations. So one may be attracted in that way. But once one has tasted the sweetness of the pastimes of Krishna and Lord Rama today, for example, I think there was some... today is also the... just quickly, today is the appearance anniversary of Sita Devi. We all know who Sita Devi is. What about some of the newer devotees? Who can tell me who Sita Devi is? Anyone? Consort of Lord Ram. Just recently, of course, we had the anniversary of the appearance of Lord Ramchandra. So Sita Devi, she appeared. She didn't appear in a normal way, and she appeared as the daughter of the earth. Janaka Maharaj was a father, but she didn't appear in the normal way. Now, Janaka Maharaj didn't have any children, and so he went to the Brahmanas. They advised him that maybe you should do the Holo Yagya. Holo Yagya, you circumambulate the palace and with the plough, and then when you, this is part of it, and as you go, where it stops, you give in charity. You give in charity to the Brahmanas, you give in charity to so many. This is very auspicious. It creates an auspicious atmosphere. So he was ploughing, and then then he push it again, and then he would stop. And then it got to one place, it stopped, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't push it. And he dug down there, and down there, he thought there must be some rock, and he dug down, and then he found this little box, a very wonderful ornate little box down there, and he opened up the box, and there was a little baby inside that box, and that baby was Sita Devi. Sita Devi. There's a nice description of Sita Devi. She appeared just like a little Lakshmi in a very, very beautiful Sita Devi. So she was born in a very unconventional way. She's not an ordinary person. She is, of course, in the transcendental position. She's Shakti. Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She is also in that category. Sita Devi. And Sita Devi, of course, grew up in the palace. There's so many stories in Ramayana about Sita Devi. Valmiki actually mentions that Ramayana really can be considered the story of Sita Devi. as much as the story of Lord Ram. And so he tells many stories, so we can read in the Ramayana about Sita Devi, especially how she came to marry Lord Ram, but later on, of course, due to some curses, she was separated from Lord Ram. Of course, we heard from Aniruddha the other day, told the story of when Ravana came, he took Sita, but it wasn't the real Sita, it was the Maya Sita. But apart from that, later on, when Sita came back to Ayodhya with Lord Ram, she was went out. She had to go out from the kingdom and was separated from her husband, Lord Ram. There was one, Lord Ram was going around and he heard some criticism and how there was one person by the name of Govardhana who was arguing with his wife who had been indiscreet. And he said, you should go away out of this household. I'm not like Lord Ram who keeps a wife who's been with another man. He criticized in that way. And so Lord Ram, he heard that and he thought, well, it's not going to be very good for my kingly position. So he asked that Sita go out and stay. And she went and stayed at the ashram of Valmiki. So she was separated. It was a very sort of kind of sad and tragic, and Sita and so many different types of pastimes. Of course, this is all due to the curse. There was a curse. Do you want to hear the story of why this happened? There was a couple of curses. Well, there may be a couple more, but I know about a couple. There was one curse where Sita was growing up in the palace, and all of a sudden some parrots came, and they were flying around, one male and one female, and they started singing on the tree about the pastimes of Lord Ram and about the pastimes of a Janaki who was going to grow up and marry Lord Ram. And so the Sita told her maidservants to go capture those parrots. She was very intrigued. She's another name of Sita is Janaki, the daughter of Janaka-Maha. And so, and then how are you speaking? These were not ordinary parrots. How are you speaking like that? We heard all these stories while we were living in the ashram of Valmiki. So it appears that Valmiki had composed a Ramayana another time that Lord Ram came, and he was telling the story. So these parrots had heard this story, and so she was very engrossed in hearing from the parrots that she would ask so many questions about Lord Ram and this and that and so many different things, what was going to happen. And so she wanted to just keep the parrots there, but the female parrot was pregnant. And she said, well, I'm pregnant, it's time for us to go back to our nest and so I can have my baby. But Sita was so attached to hearing these pastimes, she wouldn't allow the parrots to go. And so the female parrot pleaded, and Sita still, she wouldn't relent. And she said, well, all right, your husband can go, but you have to stay here. So then the husband, he pleaded. So still Sita wouldn't relent. And so the female parrot became very angry, and she cursed Sita to, you're separating me. First of all, Sita told that the male parrot should go. So the female parrot was very upset about that, and she cursed Sita, you will be separated from your husband when you're pregnant. So she cursed. And then the male parrot, he cursed Sita that you have separated me, you want to separate me from my wife, and so in an angry way, he cursed Sita that I will be reborn, and I will be the cause of your separation from your husband. So this was a curse. That's why Sita had to. Of course, these are all kind of pastimes and leelas that are arranged ultimately by the Supreme Lord. There was another curse also that some of you may be aware of by Brigu. Brigu, one time, this is from the Padma Purana, this is Brigu who had, Brigu was away, and Usha was his wife, her name was Usha. She was there, and at that time the demigods had been fighting with the demons who were attacking, and they had defeated the demons, but some of them escaped. And so they went to Usha, they went to Brigu's ashram, he wasn't there, but Usha was there. And so they begged her to protect them from the demigods. And so she agreed to that, and so she sheltered them in the back part of the ashram. And so Indra came there, realizing where they had gone, and asked her, give these demons up. They're a total menace to mankind, and they have to be punished. She refused. So Indra went to Vishnu, and then Vishnu came there and said, you have to give these demons up. They're going to murder so many human beings and others if you allow them, and then they'll come out and do so many atrocities. And she still refused. And she actually said that she said that you'll have to kill me to get those demons. So Vishnu thought for a minute, and then he decided to summon his Sudarshan chakra, and he separated not only her head, but the head of the Asuras. And so Brigu came back and he saw what happened to his wife. He was furious that Vishnu had killed his wife. And so you have separated me from my wife. So Brigu also cursed Vishnu. And Vishnu explained to him that I was faced with the dilemma to kill your wife, who was innocent, but then again she sheltered these demons. So if I didn't take care of, punish these demons, they would have murdered so many others. So I was faced with a difficult choice, and I had to make that choice. But nevertheless, I accept your curse, and in the future, in one avatar, that will come to pass. So I know about these two curses, why Sita had to be separated. So there's so many stories about Sita Devi. Janava Devi also, it is her appearance day today. She was one of the wives of Lord Nityananda, Vasudha, and Janava. And formerly it is said that they were Varuni, the wives of Lord Balaram. There's some mention in the Purana also that the Varuni is like a personified form of the liquid honey, and so it is said that some description is there. She was the daughter of Varuna, and she became the consort of Balaram along with Revati. So the two wives of Balaram, Varuni and Revati, became Vasudha and Janava in being the wives of Lord Nityananda. So today is also Janava, and also today there's one, I was asked to just touch on this. Madhu Pandit, not so much known, but especially not so much mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, more mentioned in Bhakti Ratnakar. And Madhu Pandit, of course, he is known especially as the founder of, Radha Gopinath Mandir in Vrindavan, one of the 7 ancient temples of Vrindavan. When you go to Vrindavan, you can go there, just like Govindaji Temple, Radha Raman, Radha Madan Mohan, and so on. And Radha Gopinath is another temple. And now there's different accounts here as far as Madhu Pandit. He was the disciple of, he was in Navadvip, he was the disciple of Gadadhar Goswami, not Gadadhar Pandit, but there was another Gadadhar Das Thakur. So he went from Navadvip to Vrindavan, and there was another Acharya there, who it is said that, now Gopinath was actually installed by Brajnath, the grandson of Krishna there in Vrindavan, and was manifest. There's different accounts here, manifest to Madhu Pandit, and Madhu Pandit worshipped, and then later on a temple was established. Of course, that original Gopinath, that temple was attacked by Aurangzeb, and that original deity of Radha Gopinath was moved to Jaipur. I've been there. A little hard to find. You have to go with the devotees to find the little Radha Gopinath temple there in Jaipur. But the original Gopinath deity is in Jaipur. You can visit there in Jaipur. Then, and in the deity there in Vrindavan is what's called the Pratibhu deity, a replica deity that was installed there. So these are different personalities, their appearance. Janava Mata and Sita Devi and Madhu Pandit, it's his disappearance day anniversary today. So I just thought I'd touch on that. So thank you very much for attending Srimad Bhagavatam class. Perhaps we've got time for one question. Anyone wants to ask a question? Yes. Yeah, I can repeat it. It's as far as the degree, and I think that how much you should. I mean, I quoted especially from the Hari Bhakti Vilas in regard to Sanat Goswami's imitating, saying that you shouldn't imitate great acharyas and gurus. Now, as far as Indian culture, what goes on as far as Indian culture, because Indian culture is changing a lot now. But how far do you want to? Generally, we follow the standards that's given to us in the Hare Krishna movement, as given to us by our founder, and so those standards and there's discussion about that. What we should do for there's as far as spreading Krishna consciousness, and as far as maintaining the culture that Prabhupada gave us, there has to be a balance in that. So does that cover what you?
Yeah, more or less. I just think, how can you actually separate that culture and Krishna consciousness? It seems like it's quite difficult if you're trying to separate the two, or should you be trying to separate the two?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, as I said, it's a balance, and I think because we're trying to spread Krishna consciousness, we have to come up with innovative ideas how to do it. But we need to be careful not to go beyond the line of the sadhu line of doing things. For example, we might think it's, to attract people. I remember one of my godmothers said that, we can go too far. I mean, if we want to attract people, just advertise a party down in the front lawn there and advertise you got kegs of beer and the beer's free and you'll get heaps of people coming along. So how far do you want to take it? Especially we can't break the regulative principles. That's a line that you can't cross. But, how far do you want to take it as far as wearing certain types of clothes, this, that, and the other? Outside in the temple, so that's a discussion that the devotees have. And so some were saying, Ridhananda Maharaj was making the point, in the West we should dress like the Westerners. And some were saying something different. We mainly follow, at least in the temples and like that, we'd like to dress in nice devotee clothes, and affects our own consciousness, so that Prabhupada asked us to dress like that. So there's a reason for it, because we dress in a certain way. It reminds us of what we're trying to do, so that helps us. So anyway, it's a big discussion. But thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.